This is my NXT Takeover Unstoppable 2015 review. This was the NXT special that aired tonight exclusively on the WWE Network, and this was a damn good show. The double main event is really what made this show you need to go out your way to see. You had an incredible women's match with Becky Lynch versus Sasha Banks for the NXT Women's Title, and then the main event of Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn for the NXT Title. Zayn Owens 2 was great stuff. Even with the ref stoppage, it worked great. And oh my God, you had probably one of the greatest moments of this year with Samoa Joe making his NXT/WWE debut in just an epic way. I'm glad they went the route of him coming out there and pretty much, saving Sami Zayn from getting killed by Kevin Owens. And then the stare down with Kevin Owens and Samoa Joe was just fucking epic. I'm glad they went that route instead of what was rumored to be the route they were going to go with Samoa Joe, was throwing him into Hideo Itami's spot in the #1 Contenders match, even though people would have been okay with that. I just think they handled his debut and as perfect as they can, and does not look like they have changed anything with Samoa Joe. He already has the NXT shirt. He still calls Samoa Joe. Had the Samoan submission machine on there, and just a great moment there at the end of the show with Samoa Joe's debut. The two matches at the end, the last hour of the show was really what helped the show a lot. Some of the first hour was a little weak. I will admit that. A lot of the undercard could have been a little bit better. It was a little weak, but the two main events and the opening really made the show something you go off your way to see, especially the moment of Samoa Joe's debut, which probably is going to be hard to top that type of moment right there this year at all. That was just something that I'm glad to finally see. Samoa Joe's, we knew the indie run with Samoa Joe wasn't going to last forever, and Samoa Joe's finally where he deserves to be within WWE. He's in NXT right now. He's going to slowly get to the main roster, but let me get into my review. The opening matchup was Tyler Breeze versus Finn Balor in #1 Contenders match. This was originally supposed to be a triple threat with Hideo Itami being involved in it as well. Hideo Itami wasn't able to participate due to an injury. They shot an angle out in the parking lot where he got injured and hurt by someone. They basically implied that Kevin Owens did it. It would be kind of cool if they would have went the route of maybe the real villain in the next couple weeks. Maybe Samoa Joe did it, but Samoa Joe is going to be a babyface, so it would not make sense him taking out Hideo Itami, even though it would be kind of cool to build up a feud with them too, but that will not happen, obviously. But Tyler Breeze and Finn Balor, the opening match for the NXT special. This was fun stuff, good back and forth action. The crowd was into it. The crowd loves both of them. Finn Balor with his incredible entrance that he's always done, even before his WWE career and NXT career. Just great stuff with them. Good back and forth action. Was expecting a little more from it, but it was a solid match. You had Tyler Breeze hit his finisher, the beauty shot onto Finn Balor. Finn Balor kicked out of that, so he kicked out of Breeze's finisher, and the match ends with Finn Balor hitting the drop kick into the corner to Tyler Breeze, then going up to the coup de grace, the double stomp, hit it off the top rope onto Tyler Breeze, picks up the win. So Finn Balor is your #1 contender. A really good match that kicked off the NXT special. Was expecting a little more from it, but it was good. It was really good, and the crowd was into it a whole lot. 3 and 1 4-star match. Then the next matchup was the Divas tag match. This was Dana Brooke and Emma versus Charlotte and Bayley. And this was better than your average, a whole lot better than your average women's match you would see on Raw or SmackDown, but it wasn't anything spectacular. It wasn't anything like that. Really, the person that shined in this match, which when she's always out there, she always shines, is Charlotte. She really made Dana Brooks probably look the best that she ever has done. Emma and Bayley, I wish they would have done a little more in here because they've had, great matches in the past. They did a little, but not as much as you would expect. Wasn't a long women's tag match, but it was solid for what it is, and Charlotte picks up the win after hitting the natural selection on Emma to pick up the win for her and Bayley. And about 2.5 star match, a good women's match, but nothing that you need to go out your way to see. But obviously, the NXT Divas showcase how much better they are, even when you got somewhat of a normal. A match like this would be considered, above average for Raw or SmackDown with those divas. In NXT, it's considered a little below average, but it was still, a solid divas tag match, and glad Charlotte and Bayley picked up the win. Like I said, 2.5 stars. Then the next matchup was the match that was the weakest match of the night, which I think everyone knew it was going to be, and this was Rhino versus Baron Corbin. Baron Corbin's going to be one of those guys that you either see something in or you don't. And a lot of people, just like me, do not see that much in him. I mean, he just seems very generic. He hasn't been wrestling a long time, so he is still pretty green in the ring. So with maybe the proper training, and that's what, NXT is really supposed to be, even though, the stars that have been shining in NXT are obviously stars that have wrestled years on an independent circuit. But for the most part, NXT is supposed to be a developmental territory. And, he's Baron Corbin's real green at this point, but maybe he'll improve at some point. Having him take on someone like Rhino does help him out. And Rhino, even at his age right now, he can go out there, perform. You're not going to get a great match out of him, but this was, watchable at best. The ending sequence was good with Rhino trying to hit the spear onto Baron Corbin. Baron Corbin blocked it, took him down with a short arm clothesline, and then hit his finisher, the End of Days. So the finishing sequence of the match was definitely the highlight of the match, which was, a watchable match, nothing too special, though, from them two. Baron Corbin does pick up the win, which obviously you want to have. Even if you do not like Baron Corbin, you have to have Baron Corbin go over Rhino here. 1.5 stars, maybe 1 3/4 stars. It was at least watchable. Wasn't as bad as what I was expecting, but Baron Corbin is one of those guys that is so green in the ring that, he's great going out there and destroying some job guy in less than 2 minutes, and he is showcased very good then, but when you kind of have him go out there wrestle any longer than, say, 5 minutes, he kind of gets, his weaknesses are somewhat exposed. But, he's down there. They can probably, train him to be a little bit better in the ring, and that's what he's supposed to be doing there anyway in the first place. Then the next matchup was the NXT Tag Team Titles. This was Enzo Amore and Big Cass, Colin Cassidy versus Blake and Murphy. Now, I'm actually a fan of Blake and Murphy. I like them a lot, even though in some ways you probably could say, especially with their attire, they're pretty much like the poor man's version of the American Wolves of Davey Richards and Eddie Edwards, just because I kind of get that feel that's what WWE's going with them to some degree. Not necessarily the way they work, just the way they kind of come out there and their attire, and to some degree. Enzo Amore and Big Cass are always over in the NXT. The crowd just loves them, and it's a gimmick that works very well within NXT. I don't know how it will work on the main roster. I think that it possibly could work, Enzo Amore and Big Cass on the main roster, especially Big Cass, because he's a very agile big guy that can go in the ring. He's not your typical generic big guy, so he could go. And Enzo's a good talker, and he can really hype the crowd up. So I think they probably would work on the main roster. Just at this point, I don't know if this is an act that just works in NXT or could work on the main roster. But this was, a solid tag match. The ending was really the thing that hurt the match to a degree. But I know where they're going with it. Obviously, they had Alexa Bliss come out there. She attacked Carmella, and then Big Cass got out the ring. He got super kicked by I think it was Murphy. And then inside the ring, you saw Enzo Amore trying to go to the top rope before this. Basically, Big Cass, before he got out of the ring, was helping him up, get on the top rope, looking like they were going to pick up the victory here. But then Alexa Bliss crotches him on the top rope, and you have Blake and Murphy win in a cheap fashion with the help of Alexa Bliss. So they retain the NXT Tag Team titles. Not a terrible tag match, but the ending did hurt it to a degree. So 2 stars at best. It was pretty much just a little bit better than the Rhino and Baron Corbin match. Just the ending did hurt it to a degree. So obviously they're going to be going into a mixed person feud with Blake and Murphy teaming up with Alexa Bliss versus Carmella, Enzo Amore, and Big Cass. That's the program they got going there. So they'll continue this feud for the tag team titles. Wasn't terrible, but like I said, the ending did hurt it to a degree. Then the next matchup was probably the match I got to say that, in my opinion, was match of the night. I definitely think tonight that the women stole the show in Becky Lynch versus Sasha Banks for the NXT Women's title. This was just a fantastic and phenomenal women's match that everyone needs to go out their way to see. I mean, I can see this is the type of women's match that can make the doubters that do not like Divas matches, do not like women's matches, and pretty much can prove them wrong. And if they just give this match a shot, they will love, this women's match. It just showcases how great that Sarah Del Rey is training these women in NXT, and Becky Lynch and Sasha Banks. Just at this point, I would love to see them get called up to the main roster, but at the same time, I don't know if I would, because then we wouldn't be getting these lengthy women's matches between these two. And this was just great stuff here. You saw great in-ring psychology with them both, with both of them working over each other's arm. Great submission work, a lot of near falls, just great back and forth action, just a lot of great stuff within this match, and just a fantastic women's match that everyone needs to go out their way to see. At the end of the match comes, you saw Becky Lynch on the top rope. She looked like she was going to do something to Sasha Banks off the top rope. Sasha Banks gets up, catches her, slams her to the mat, and locks in her submission hold, the Banks statement, and then Becky Lynch ends up tapping out, so Sasha Banks retains the NXT Women's title. And a great match. Definitely, in my opinion, match of the night, and loved it. And the women's match, everyone needs to go out their way to see. I give it probably 4 1/4 stars. I might even give it 4.5 stars, just because I thought it was a great women's match that pretty much had no flaws in it. It was just great stuff from start to finish. And then the main event was Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens for the NXT title. This was Zayn Owens 2. Owens won the title back in February after defeating Sami Zayn via ref stoppage, and they pretty much did the same type of ending with this match. But it's like they know how to book these two to have such an incredible match where they do so many crazy things in it. And this is Sami Zayn working with an injury here, and you could tell he was hurt in some portions of the match, but not as bad as what you would expect him to be. And just great stuff. They brawled outside the ring a lot. They did one spot where it looked like they were going to tease Kevin Owens hitting the power bomb out in the crowd to Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn blocks that, throws Kevin Steen over the guardrail. They just brawl out there for a while, do great stuff inside the ring. You saw Sami Zayn take the power bomb from Kevin Steen to the ring apron, with Kevin Owens hitting that on him, and just great action here. Just with the feud, they do a great job of showcasing that these two guys have had a long history. They're former friends, and they just go out there and kill each other, and they just do it in such a good way with the whole storyline, and just a fun match with these two. Even with the ending, which made Kevin Owens just look even more intimidating, which was Kevin Owens destroyed Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn, was getting looked at by the referees, and while he was being looked at the referees, and they never really rang the bell that it was ref stoppage, but obviously it was ref stoppage. And just Kevin Owens kept going after him. Then you had then you had William Regal come out there and try to stop Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens headbutted him, knocked him down, then was trying to go after Sami Zayn. This was pretty much when the match was already officially over. And then you hear some familiar music at the beginning, the dun-dun-dun, the Samoa Joe music that he's been famous for many years. And then Samoa Joe makes his NXT debut, comes out there. The crowd popped heavily for this, and just a great moment here with Samoa Joe finally getting his shot, going to where he has deserved to be for a long time. This is long overdue for Samoa Joe, and I'm glad that it does not look like they are changing one damn thing with Samoa Joe. That was the one thing a lot of us were worried about, that when Samoa Joe was going to go to NXT, then go to end up after NXT on the main roster, that they were going to give him some idiotic gimmick. Thankfully, it doesn't look like that. He came out there wearing his NXT shirt that I'm sure is going to probably sell out really quick when they put it on WWEshop.com. And it said Samoa Joe, the Samoan submission machine. And just a great stare-down moment with Kevin Owens and Samoa Joe within the ring. And then Kevin Owens walked to the back, walked out of the ring. Did not want to get into it with Samoa Joe, which is a great thing they're doing with Kevin Owens, which is they're having him play such a great heel that he's not necessarily playing a cowardly heel. He's just playing that heel like he is going to do his fighting only when he wants to, and that's how they're doing him. Like normally, a lot of other people, when they do this type of heelish thing like Kevin Owens, it would kind of come off as the pussified, cowardly heel. But they're not really doing that with him. And the show ends with Samoa Joe in the ring, and just great stuff. And even with the ref stoppage, I have to give the Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn 4 stars, just because it was a great match for what it was. And the double main event, Samoa Joe's debut, and a very entertaining opener made this show something that you definitely need to go out your way to see, especially the double main event on here, and obviously Samoa Joe's debut. Some of the undercard, I will admit, was a little weak on here, but those two things really made the show what it was. And overall, I'll probably give the show about an 8.25 out of 10. And Samoa Joe's debut was probably the best they could have handled his debut. They just did it so perfectly. And that's it for my NXT TakeOver Unstoppable 2015 review. All right, peace.